Hey there. If you're a frequent listener to our show, you already know that our show is brought to you by our friends over at Artillery Sports. But what you may not know is that Artillery Sports helps athletes of all types win on and off the course and court. They do this by selling quality, durable, and precision manufactured sports equipment that keeps you in the game, while also using a portion of the profits to provide the funding needed to care for our nation's veterans. With Artillery Sports, it's more than just a game. So head over to artillerysports.com today to buy the quality equipment you need to keep you in the game and to help our nation's veterans at the same time. That's artillerysports.com. Make sure you head on over there today. Oh, and use the code DOCFIRST to get 10% off your first order. Welcome to Documentary First, an inside look at documentary filmmaking. I'm your host, Christian Taylor, and a documentary filmmaker myself. I don't know where you are today or where you're listening to this, but today is Wednesday, March 5th. I'm in Wheaton, Illinois, and I'm so excited for today's podcast. I'm just going to jump right in. Today, it may seem like we're going to go off script and we're doing something that has absolutely nothing to do with documentary filmmaking, but if you stick with me, you will see that our guest is going to be a great asset to our continuing conversation on how to make great films. Now, before I introduce our guest, I am going to let him kind of introduce himself. So, Heidi, roll the tape.
How long have you had this headache?
Since I was 26.
You're joking, right?
Maybe 27.
My name is Greg Fitzpatrick, and I'm a professional stuntman. I've spent my career performing alongside some of the most talented actors on the planet, traveling all over the world to work on many of the most iconic films of all time. And from the outside, I bet it looks like I have life pretty much figured out. Yeah, not so much.
That, everybody, is Greg Fitzpatrick, who's now in the studio with us. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for having me. And
Yeah, so nice to see you. I mean, that's amazing. What was it that we were just listening to?
Well, that is a show I created. I created a television show, and I also turned it into a film. I adapted it into a screenplay, and it's a story loosely based on my life. But I'm a professional stuntman. I'm an actor, professional stuntman, and I've worked on some of the most iconic films around. Like I doubled Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. I doubled Ben Stiller for over 20 years on all his films, Zoolander 2, Tropic Thunder, Night at the Museum, the whole Night at the Museum series. And I've won a couple World Stunt Awards, right? And that all sounds really cool, right? But that's not what the show's about. The show's about the other side of being a stuntman and all the humiliating things that you have to go through, the injuries, the crazy situations you're in. And the show is a kind of behind the scenes look at a guy who everyone thinks has it all together. He's got a great career. He's got admiration from his peers. But in reality, he's got nothing figured out. So it's a comedy. It's a funny version of a stuntman's life.
And so what's this show called?
It's called Stunted. And of course, that's a double or triple entendre because the main character, as I said, he looks like he's got everything figured out, but no, his life is stunted. He can't commit to his fiance, who's the best thing that ever happened to him. He lives with a crazy old man who's like a former, legendary stuntman, but now is a little bit, loopy. And, I take care of him. He lives in my house. And, he causes all kinds of trouble for me. And my finances aren't in order. My love life's not in order. Nothing's in order. The only thing that looks like is in order is my career. But you just peek behind the curtain and the guy's kind of a mess.
Yeah. Well, listen, everybody, if you Yes. Well, it is funny, and I know this because I have watched this trailer many times. I have peeked behind the scenes of your life. And if you only listen to this little part on the podcast, I encourage you to go to YouTube or to Instagram and see a lot more, learn a lot more about Greg's career, about his life. Greg, I'm going to have you share now where people can find that information. And we're also going to put it in the show notes. So where can people find the rest of that trailer?
You could find me on Instagram. I have a number of different shorts that I shot that deal with the show, some mini episodes, etc. And that's on my Instagram, which is, Greg Fitzpatrick, but it's Fitzie, Fitzie 001. And you can find it on YouTube, Greg Fitzpatrick, and on Vimeo, Greg Fitzpatrick as well.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Definitely, I encourage you to check Greg out. He's a lot of fun on Instagram for sure. That's the main place you can follow him. Now, I have the great fortune of knowing Greg since he was probably about 15 years old. It's been a long time. We went to high school together. And who knew back then I was the one that was actually in the theater and drama program, all into that. While Greg was out there playing football and doing who knows what. I had no idea, Greg, that you were going to be going into this career. I was quite surprised when one day I found out that you were in LA doing all this acting stuff. Stunted is sort of this culmination of your career, but I mean, it took you a lot to get here. And I want to start over at the beginning. And before we do that, I want to explain to my audience why I think it's important that you're here. So, you guys, we've been doing this podcast for a long time now. It's like 4 years. And we have started at, my career where we started this documentary film and everybody was following along as I made The Girl Who Wore Freedom. And then we went into following my next film, Heroes of Keraton. And then now we've morphed into following all sorts of filmmakers as they're making their documentary films in hopes that people who are listening learn a lot about documentary filmmaking. And we've interviewed cinematographers and editors, and we've interviewed distributors, and we've interviewed just about everybody that has anything to do with documentary filmmaking. We have not interviewed actors or stuntmen. And we have interviewed some directors, but not a ton of them. And I thought, my goodness, we have someone here in my friend Greg Fitzpatrick who is all three of those things. And he and I talk all the time. We're actually working together right now on both of our careers, trying to, really grow them still. I mean, we're not 18 anymore, or, we're kind of there in our mind. We feel like we're 18, but we're really not. And but we are still always working to as if we are 18 and our careers are just starting, and we've got that fire in our belly. And so we're still working together to figure out how can we accelerate our career. So we've been talking a lot, and I thought, gee, it's really important. You have a lot to offer. You have learned so much in your time in this business. I mean, you've studied from the very beginning of your career with some amazing people. You have worked with some of the top people in our industry. You have lived in LA. I mean, you've just learned so much. I mean, for crying out loud, you've just lived through fires and you've survived. And, you've survived strikes and you've survived. I mean, I don't know how your body has survived all the injuries that you've lived through. So, to me, you are an incredible, you're an incredible testament to resiliency and strength and strength of character. You are one of, an amazing, testament of character, I feel, living in an industry where it's very difficult to be a person of character. So that is why I've invited you on our podcast. And I'd like to start from the beginning where we were back in high school. And you weren't interested, really, at least to my knowledge, of going into this entertainment field. So take me back. How did this interest in, acting and everything begin?
Well, thank you, Christian, for that introduction. I was always interested in acting, always. I just never did it. I didn't have the courage to do it. I was self-conscious, even though I didn't maybe I didn't look like I was self-conscious.
You didn't. You, just for the record, I mean, I think you knew this. You were like the coolest guy in school. You were like the most handsome. You were the most athletic. You were, everybody wanted to be Greg Fitzpatrick or date Greg Fitzpatrick or know Greg Fitzpatrick. Come on, you know that, right?
That's what my whole show is about. It's about a guy who looks really cool, but isn't really cool underneath.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we have come full circle. Yeah, I always wanted. There's so many things I wanted to do, but I didn't have the courage to try them. And I went to college, and I was an English major, and I wrote in college and all that stuff. And then when I left college, I went to law school.
Wow.
In other words,
I never would have pinged you for that.
I started law school. I should clarify that I started law school, and I did a semester, and I realized I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to do this. What do I really want to do? It's one of those crossroads in your life where you're like, am I going to take out all these loans for law school? I saw all this money I was going to have to take out, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So I went back to New York City, where I'm from. And I started acting. I got into acting classes. I got headshots. I did all that stuff because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow.
I wanted to be an athlete, or I wanted to be an actor. So I went back, got headshots, started acting there, and then I went out to Los Angeles. I came out to California, where I live now, Los Angeles. And when I was a kid, I dreamed of Los Angeles. I dreamed of California. I grew up in Queens. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't at all. It was cold and dark and wet and horrible. So whenever I saw anything on TV, it was from California. I go, God, that's paradise. So I want to go to California. So I came out to California, and I started pursuing acting. And I studied method, the Sanford Meisner technique, for a couple of years. I studied Shakespeare with Lynn Redgrave. I did a lot of theater. Yeah, I know, it was great. It was great studying with her. She was awesome. It was a giant class, but if you had a scene, you could bring it up. She would critique you. It was fantastic. And I did a lot of theater in Los Angeles because, I grew up thinking theater is acting. Theater,
you were in New York.
And theater is an actor's medium. And
right.
If you want to be a serious actor, you have to do theater. So I did a lot of theater in Los Angeles, some really good theater. Several of the productions I was in was Pick of the Week in the LA Times. Had my picture in the LA Times for theater. I did one piece of theater that was that won the LA Drama Critics Award for the best play of the year, and it was fantastic. And I loved it, but I wasn't earning a living. I wasn't making a lot of money.
Well, I mean, come on now, it's hard. Let's be real.
It's staggeringly brutal.
You can study like that. You can study like that in New York. You can study like that in Chicago, and you can be really good. You can be really good, and you can still not make money at this job.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker. Whatever they say about it is true. It is absolutely true. It's brutal. And I ran into a manager, a prominent manager at a party once, and he did not want to talk about acting at all. He said, nobody should do it. It's too hard. Nobody should do it. He's a manager, right? He manages actors. And he said, nobody should do it. It's too hard. And I would never tell someone that. I would never tell them that. I would say, if you want to do it, do it. If it's in your soul and in your heart, you have to do it, or you're going to have regrets. And you don't want to have regrets in life. But if you do it, you have to commit to it and try your best to find other people that you can bond with and create things with, and who are like-minded like you are, to so you can move forward. And it's exponential. If you have people around you, you exponentially grow, and you can exponentially grow your business. And that's what acting is. Acting is a business, and you have to be connected.
Yeah,
that's it. You have to be connected. I didn't do that. I did tons of theater. I was constantly doing stuff, but I didn't know how to create a community that could push me forward, because you need to be pushed forward. That's 100% true. All the actors, I mean, not all, but many of the actors like DiCaprio and uh, what's the guy who was in
Well, I think of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Matt Damon?
That is
Ben,
a classic example right there of two people who were friends. They started off when they were young, and they were together, and they began building their network, and they just built their network. Then Casey Affleck came in there, and they started just building and building and building, and they became very profitable because they had this network of people and friends. They were friends, and yeah,
yeah, that's true. That's true. And the younger you start, the better.
yeah,
And the more connected you can be politically, I have to say, that's the most important thing.
yeah.
I, as I said, I was studying, I was doing theater, and I was doing good theater. I was working like crazy.
Yeah. Now let's stop there because I want to dig into that a little bit. Because we may have to go into more than one podcast with you, Greg, because and I'm going to just say that right up front because we're already at 15 minutes and we're barely into your career, and so you have so much to talk about, and I really do want our audience to learn from you. I really do, and so we may need to do more than one of these. And I want to dig in a little deeper here because I preach this all the time to my audience, and it's not just as an actor. It doesn't matter if you're an actor, a director, a cinematographer, an editor, a colorist. It doesn't matter what you are in filmmaking. If you want to make a living in this business, you have to do it with all your heart. And if you have to say, no matter what job it is hard. It is going to be hard. And there is no like guarantee that you are going to make a lot of money or be successful or win an award. I was watching the Oscars the other night. I was watching the Oscars and I was watching the girl that won the Oscar for the best actress. And her name is escaping me at the moment. She won for Anora. And it was just, it's a small little independent film that was financed by, a group of people who believed in this film. She had no thought really that she really had a chance, like up against Demi Moore, right? But she won. And sometimes lightning strikes. Yes, that is true. Sometimes lightning strikes, but for the most part, it does not. And what you see on the Oscars is 0.1% of, actors or writers or directors or editors that make it. And so, otherwise, you have to figure out how to sustain yourself with a job and do what you're incredibly passionate about until your career can take off with the thing you're passionate about and you can offset it. So I've heard you talk about how you did that, how you kind of kept your life afloat until you could start, making a living with your creative skills. So let's go back to the beginning when you moved to LA and you were taking your classes and you talked to your manager. What were you doing to pay your rent? And what were you doing to put gas in your car? And when you moved to LA, how did you, go out there? How did you do all that?
Well, when I came to LA, I had no job. I had barely any money. And I started from the very beginning. I started doing temp work. I was a temp. And it was horrible. And I had to work downtown. I lived in the valley. I had to take a bus. I didn't have a car. And I remember going to do this temp work at an office at a law firm downtown. And I was waiting for a bus, and I was sick. And it started to rain. And I was standing there waiting for the bus in the rain, and I was sick. And I said, I have got to figure out a way to make my life easier because this sucks. This is horrible. So, but I knew nothing. I literally just came out knowing nothing. And I eventually bartended. I became a bartender. I became a personal trainer because I've always been athletic and worked out. And so I was a bartender. I was a personal trainer. I did construction work. I did anything to make a buck. And I lived in a small apartment. And I was I was sending out headshots. I got an agent. I got a small agent, blah, blah, blah. I did all that kind of thing, trying to move forward. And, you know, many people like me have this experience. There's just random things that you do. You do random jobs trying to find a foothold somewhere in life. And I was bartending, hated it. Personal training doesn't lead you anywhere. One day I'm lying in bed and I see in a paper called the Drama Log. It has all independent stuff in it. It had all theater in it. I don't even know if it's still there, or maybe it was Backstage. That's another
That is still there, but it's digital now.
publication. You know, that you find out about theater and stuff on there. And I saw an audition for the Wild West Stunt Show at Universal Studios, right? So, and they had different parameters in there. You know, there were different characters, and one character was my height, you know, my look type of thing, and it said gymnastics, stunt work a plus, but not necessary. So I'm like, okay, I'm not a stuntman, I'm not a gymnast, but if I can get up in the morning, I'll go. So I got up in the morning and I went, and there were hundreds of people there. Hundreds. And they put us through some certain physical things, physical tasks that I could do. And then they would cut people after each physical task. So it went down and down and down, the number of people. And the last physical task was hitting a mini trampoline and doing what's called a face-off. When you do high falls, there's 3 basic high falls. It's a header where you go head first and you land on your back. You go a suicide where you jump feet first and you land on your back, and then a face-off where you jump out and you go down feet first and then you turn and you land on your back. And they wanted us to do a face-off off a mini tramp. I'd never seen a mini tramp. I didn't know what one was. I never saw a face-off. Never did. I never did anything. Didn't know what it was. I was the 3rd person in line, and they said, go. So I'm sitting there, and I asked the guy in front of me, I said, hey, bro, what do I do here? And he goes, well, you just jump and you land on your back. But I was talking to him, and he was nice, and he kind of calmed me down. His name is Bonsai. He's still a good friend of mine. He's actually in one of my shorts. Great guy. I've known him all these years. And he's actually got a stunt school out here. So anybody wants to be a stunt person,
What's the name of the stunt school? Let's call him out.
It's the Stunt Performers Academy, I believe it's called. Bonsai Vitale. Anybody wants to be a stunt person just starting, go to Bonsai School, the Stunt Performers Academy. And so Bonsai was in front of me. He was second. Some other guy was first. And I'm watching these guys. I watch the first guy hit the mini tramp, do a face-off. Bonsai hits the mini tramp, do a face-off. I've always been a good mimic. I've always been a good physical mimic and a creative artistic mimic. So I watched it. I was 3rd up. I went and hit the mini tramp first time in my life, and I nailed the face-off. And I run to the end of the line, and Bonsai goes, you did it. I go, yeah, I did it. And since then, I've done about 1,000 high falls, and I do them the exact same way I did them that day.
Wow.
And then we had to do the acting portion. So I passed that test, and then they took the people that were left to the acting portion, and I'm an actor, so I got the job.
Okay.
And that's the day the universe changed for me. That was one of the pivotal points in my life, because I got the job at the Wild West Stunt Show being a stunt performer. And I learned different things. I learned different physical things, but I was still acting. And I was doing theater. And at the time, I was doing 2 really good pieces of theater. They were both pick of the week in the LA Times. At the same time, I would do one piece of theater, and then I would go across the street to another theater and get in the 3rd act of another show.
Wow.
And when I would get into the 3rd act of the other show, it started in the dark of me lying on a couch. And I was lying on the couch in the dark and thinking to myself, okay, I did the Wild West show during the day. I went and did this other piece of theater at night. And now this is the 3rd audience that is seeing me in the same day. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it because it meant I was working.
Right.
It meant I was doing my craft. I was physical. I was artistic. And it was the greatest.
And so at this
Yeah.
point then, were you able to stop the bartending and stop the
Yeah.
temping, and you were
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you were now working? So it wasn't like you were in the, movies yet, but you were in theater, which you had looked up to, and you thought, "Okay, theater is really serious acting, so I am growing in my craft." And now stunt work, I'm assuming, had replaced that bartending job. So it was now, not necessarily acting, but it was closer, and you were getting paid for it, and it was on the Universal lot. So that actually opened the door maybe to meeting some other people, I would assume,
It did.
right?
It did.
Yeah.
I met other stunt performers.
Okay.
Um, Working up at Universal was great. However, you can't get stuck there because it's not big time stunt performing and it's not big time acting. But
And when you say Universal, you mean the theme park.
the theme park, yeah, the Wild West Stunt Show in the theme park. So there are a lot of different stunt shows up there, and there are a lot of different people, so you network and stuff. But I would be up at the Wild West Stunt Show, and in between shows, I would leave and hustle. I would take my headshots and drop them off at casting offices, and I'd find stunt coordinators on different films because back in the day, that's how you got stunt jobs. You just went into a film set and you looked for the stunt coordinator and said, "Hey, I'm Greg, blah, blah, blah." And you'd hand out your stuff. So I was constantly hustling, constantly doing that. I would leave and come back, leave and come back. And because once you're up there, that's great, but you got to leave. You've got to move on. And I would meet people, and there's stunt acting parts that come around where you say a couple lines, you get the living crap beat out of you, but you still have to audition. And because I was an actor, I got several of them, and there was so I was doing that, and then I thought to myself, okay, I'm splitting my focus here. Should I be an actor or a stuntman? Well, I want to be an actor more, so I was thinking about leaving stunts completely, and then I got a call to see for a go-see to see if I could double Ben Stiller.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that if I was getting the phone call, a lot of other people were getting the phone call because I didn't know anybody. I wasn't connected. The stunt coordinator didn't know me, but there was a book of stunt people that everyone had to be in. So they were just going through the book and getting everyone about Ben Stiller's height and weight and bringing him in for a look-see. So I knew I had a chance because they were bringing me in for a look-see. So I said, "What does Ben's hair look like?" And they said, "Well, just come down." I go, "No, please just tell me what his hair looks like." And they said, "It's spiky." So I went to the video store because this was a while ago. This was 22 years ago. And I got all these videos of Ben, and I watched to see, how he moved on camera. And then I downloaded all these pictures of him. And I wanted to see what his body looked like, what kind of clothes he liked to wear. I saw that Ben was athletic and muscular, and he wore darker clothes. So that's what I wanted to I wanted to look like. But my hair was longer, so I took a picture of Ben, and I printed it out. I took several pictures and printed them out, and one of them I saw his face looked like mine. It was like this big. And I took that and I pasted it next.
In case, for those of you just listening, he's showing very tiny, his
Yeah,
fingers together,
yeah. It's like an inch picture of Ben that looked just like me, and I pasted that right next to the face on my headshot, and I put it in an envelope. And I took another picture of Ben's spiky hair, and I brought it to a barber in the morning, and I said, "Cut my hair like this." So with that, I went to the go-see. To the interview. And when I got there, there were 25 people lined up. And what I didn't know is that the day before, they had the first 25. I wasn't even the first 25. Oh, and a side note, a few weeks before, I went and saw a sports psychologist who wanted to get into counseling actors. And my friend said, "Hey, can he give you his test so he can test on you what it's like to be a psychologist to actors?" So he gave me this test, and I found out that I have a 98% awareness and a 2% focus.
That does not surprise me.
Right,
One bit.
right. But I have a 98% awareness. So armed with that, I go to this go-see, and I'm lined up with 25 people in front of a big trailer. It's a makeup trailer. And we're just all lined up, and a woman comes out of the trailer. And I didn't know her, but now I know her. She's still my really good friend after 22 years. Her name is Candy Neal. She was the hair person on the show. And she's looking down at us, like analyzing us. And and she points to a guy next to me. And with my 98% awareness, I'm watching this, and I hear from down the line of stunt people, it looks like that guy got it. So I'm taking all this in, and in my brain, I'm like, I didn't come down here for nothing. So I'm going to say something. I said, "Hi, do I know you?" And I stepped away from everybody. Now, I thought everybody would follow me, but nobody did. And I thought she was going to tell me to shut up and get back in line, but she didn't. She said, "Did you work on this?" And I didn't work on anything. So I'm like, no, maybe it's something else. And we're just sitting there talking. And then another woman comes over. Her name's V. Neal, and she's got 3 Academy Awards for makeup. And she's looking at me. And then another woman comes over. Her name's Naomi Dunn. She was Ben Stiller's personal hair person. And they're all looking at me like I'm the guy. And then all of a sudden, they go, "Oh, his hair's too short in the back. I cut it too short."
Oh, no.
And they said, "Shall we keep the other guy? Let's keep them both, and we'll have Ben decide." And they go, "Well, wait a minute. Who looks more like him in the face?" And I opened up my picture, and I pulled it out with Ben Stiller's picture next to my face. And they go, "He does." So I got the job.
Great. That's amazing.
And then the next day I met Ben, and I was sitting in the makeup trailer, and I'm looking in the mirror of the makeup trailer, and the door is open so I could see outside. And Ben walks by, and he goes like this to me, and I go like that to him. And he walks up and comes right next to me, and I'm staring at Ben Stiller. And I just busted out laughing. And then he busted out laughing, and he goes, "I can live with this."
Oh, that's awesome. Everybody, I just want to stop for a moment, and I just want you to take that in, okay? Because it's a wonderful story. It's engaging, and Greg's an amazing storyteller, but there's some things I want to point out here. You know, he worked really hard at research. That was at the bottom of what Greg was doing here. He was spent a lot of time researching what he needed to do. That was number 1. And number 2 was preparation. So then he really prepared for what he needed to do. Number 3, he was willing to do what he had to do. He cut his hair, he went the extra mile, getting all the pictures ready. And he knew, that he was going to go and he was going to take those pictures with him. And I mean, he had a plan. He had it all thought out, and he was ready and prepared for anything that happened. He thought about the clothes. He thought about the hair. He knew what was important. And then in the moment, he was aware of his surroundings. But then he took a risk. And the risk was, I'm going to not just sit here and wait for something to happen to me. I'm going to make something happen. And that's a scary thing for everybody to do, especially for somebody that is insecure, as you talked about from the beginning. And I think that's interesting, Greg, because, even in your trailer that we listened to in the beginning, and in the beginning of this interview, we talked about how underneath you have that lack of self-confidence, that lack of self-belief. And yet, in a moment that really counted, in a self-defining moment in your career, you believed enough in yourself to take that risk.
Yeah, thank you. That was another day the universe changed for me. I did that research because I was an actor, and that's what you do as an actor. You prepare. You do research. You get as much knowledge as you can so you can live truthfully through the imaginary circumstance.
That reminds me of a great book by Uta Hagen.
An Actor Prepares?
An Actor Prepares. Yeah. Great book.
And that's essential, but it's essential in the stunt world as well. And I worked my backside off doing that. It's funny.
Actors are also emotional.
I rarely ever talk about this
I know. Actors are also
because,
emotional, and that's what I love about you, Greg, is that you really do show your heart. You know,
well,
you don't hold back with your emotions, and I think it had to have been an emotional moment.
well, the thing is, you know, without it, I don't know where I'd be. I started stunts later than other people, and life is difficult, and I worked really hard, but that's no guarantee that you're going to get something. That's no guarantee you're going to be successful. But you got to work hard anyway. And Ben still just happened to like me,
Yeah. But,
and
it's a
and
blessing from God, in my opinion, by the way. It's a
that
gift.
that meant a lot. And even though I'm an actor, and that's what I wanted to do, I thought to myself, well, maybe God wants me to be a stuntman for a while. And I learned a lot being a stuntman. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that actors put themselves first, and you should. You're the one behind the camera. But as a stuntman, you're humbled a lot. You're humbled a lot by the life of falling down.
Mhm.
So when I started doubling Ben, I put Ben first. I have to put Ben first, and and I cared for that relationship. I cared for his safety and all that. And in life, you love what you care for, and I love Ben for for all the things we've done together. But the amount of the the condition of putting something before you is good. It's humbling. You learn a lot about yourself. And even though stunts wasn't my primary goal in life, I learned a lot from it. I got a lot from it, and it's been a great ride. But I'm of course I'm going back to acting now, and directing and writing and creating.
What's interesting, though, is there is a love-hate relationship, I think, with things sometimes, and stunts has been an incredible gift for
Yeah,
you.
it really
There's
has.
just no question. When I hear you talk, and I mean, Greg, you've traveled all over the world. I mean, all anybody has to do is watch Walter Mitty to look at where you've been and what you have done, and that's just one of your many movies. And yes, you're right. It's humbling. Nobody really knows what you have done, or nobody really, you get no glory for that. Now, what is amazing is you've told me a lot how much Ben is thankful for you, and how he is kind to you. And, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of other famous actors probably don't treat their stunts or their stunt doubles very, kindly. So you're fortunate that you have
Yeah,
had,
I'm really fortunate in that regard. But there are other actors that have treated me great. Another one I work with, excuse me, Frank Grillo. I've done many things with Frank. Frank's been great to me as well. And um, yeah, but it's been an incredible ride. You're right. I've traveled all over the world. I won a couple world stunt awards.
yeah.
Uh,
What were those for?
uh, there are different categories in the World Stunt Awards. One of them was best high work, being up at a height.
Yeah.
And that was for a thing I did for Ben in Starsky and Hutch. And hardest hit,
Oh
which is
gosh.
kind of a weird category. But that was for a stunt I did for Robert Downey in Iron Man.
Okay, so what were those 2 stunts, and where can we see them?
Uh, well, the first one I won for Ben is in for best high work is in Starsky and Hutch, where Ben jumps from one building to another building across an alley. As I jumped from a 100-foot building across an alley to a 70-foot building. And the second one is in Iron Man 1 when Robert is testing out the boots for his Iron Man suit for the first time
Mhm.
and does this backflip into a
Oh,
wall.
yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Which was a lot of fun to do. Yeah. So I mean, really, I've had so much fun. I've gotten to do things other people only dream about. It's awesome. however, it's humbling as well. Like after I, do these big stunts, I don't ride off into the sunset. I've got to clean up the set. I got to clean up the pads. I got to, haul stuff out.
Right.
It's not all glamour. It sounds good. But
Right. And I mean, you're not the one walking across the red carpet. You're not the one, getting the awards. You're not the one at the after parties. You're not the one at the Oscars. Like, truthfully, and also you're not the one getting the pay. Let's be real. I mean, you get paid, but you don't get the actor pay, truthfully. So yeah, it's humbling. And also let's throw in one more thing. Actors aren't usually the ones in the emergency room when
no, it's the injuries, it's humbling. And the thing is, if I have to slam on the ground 5 times and I'm hurt, and they say to you, "Do you have another one in you?" You go, "Yeah, I have another one in me," even though
yeah.
you're hurt.
And I know, this is, I mean, you may hate this because I'm sure stunt people think this is, I don't know, maybe they will like it or maybe not, they don't. But the only way that I can understand what your job is, thanks to, Ryan Gosling, I did see The Fall Guy. And, I was able to see how thankless your job is and how you just get treated pretty thanklessly as you're just thrown into things and not really considered your health or well-being at all. And if you do complain, then you really aren't used anymore. You're kind of like, let's move on to the next guy. And so I did get a little bit of a window into your world, actually. I don't know how realistic it was, but it did make me feel like, gosh, Greg's job is not as glamorous as it looks.
Yeah, it's people become stunt people because they want to. And if you're working as a stunt person, you've got your dream. But it certainly is humbling. You certainly don't get respect all the time. I mean, I have through Ben Stiller and through Frank Grillo and through Tom Lennon and a number of other people I've worked with. I've gotten, people who appreciate me, absolutely. But it's definitely not glamorous, and that's why I created my show, Stunted. It's the other side, the non-glamorous side of being a stuntman.
Yeah.
And there are many comedic moments to that if you choose to see them that way. But it can be humiliating. It's definitely challenging when you're dealing with your injuries and things like that. And it's also serious because there's people who get seriously hurt. I mean, tragically hurt in my business. It's no joke. I treat it in a lighthearted manner, in my show, in my shorts. But it's very serious. People do get hurt. This is it's dangerous for sure.
Yeah.
So it tests you. Like I've been tested many times when I was petrified to do a stunt, and I did it anyway.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, there must be some, safety things built in. Like they can't really, really be rolling in that car. They can't really be jumping off that building. They can't really be, I mean, that's really got to be CGI, right? But I mean, I guess the stunts really are real a lot of times.
Yeah, they're practical. I mean, we do try to take every precaution necessary, or we can. But there are times when the stunt coordinator walks up to you and says, "This is going to be a thumper. This one's going to hurt." You're like, "Yeah, I know what you want. I know, I got it."
Well, let's move on a little bit to directing because I know you've done some of that as well. And I wanted to cover sort of all the things you do, which is acting, stunt work, and directing. And you are going to direct this show, Stunted. I even think you wrote it as well. But let's talk about directing because directing is a different beast altogether. And I do think that being in, as an actor, being in front of the camera really does help you be a better director. So, talk about what kind of director you are and how being in front of the camera has made you a different, director.
Well, I started writing my show. I mean, I wrote theater. I was an English major in college, and I wrote in college. And when I started the show, I like writing very much. And once you write the narrative, you definitely want to direct it because you don't want someone else to screw it up.
Right.
So when I started creating the shorts I did, I knew exactly what I wanted. And when you write, you lay out your vision, and as a director, you apply that vision and you bring it to reality. And luckily, I observed so many great directors in my career. I've worked on so many movies where I've gotten to see these great directors, Ben Stiller, Sean Levy, etc. And Ben writes and directs a lot of his own stuff. So I was sitting right there watching him, and I I knew camera angles. I knew how I wanted it set up. And in my brain, I walk on set and I see exactly what I want. And I try my best to bring what's in my brain to the screen. And then when you editing, as I've heard Ben Stiller say, the edit is the final draft of the film, because then you put it all together. You change things around, and I love it. I love it. I love it all. And as I said, I've had great role models in that, where Ben acts, writes, and directs his own stuff. So I'm
Right.
like, I want to do that.
Right.
And it's been just awesome.
Yeah, so I do think you're right. You've had wonderful role models in front of you, and it is amazing to have a front row seat at somebody's life like that, where you can learn without having a graduate degree with some of the greats. So we are having a front row seat at your life right now, and I want to say thank you for sharing that with us. It's really a wonderful opportunity, and listeners, I want you to understand that when making documentaries, the reason I think it's important to learn from Greg is, I had a lot of reenactments in my documentary film. And that's why I think acting, directing, stunt work comes in handy in my documentary film. I needed all of those. We used a lot of acting. We did use some stunt work, and I did have to direct, of course. But you may have to do that same thing as well. And so I would like Greg to talk us through a little bit next time, some of his tips and tricks and, suggestions about acting and in stunt work in particular, and, what his advice would be, some acting advice and some advice of how to direct actors and stunt workers, and just some things as filmmakers we should know about how to work with actors and stunt people. So Greg, be thinking about that. And when I have you come back on the show, I want us to talk more practically about how our filmmakers can work better as they're making their films with actors and with stunt people.
You
Does that
got
sound
it.
good? Will you come back?
Absolutely. I'd love
All
to.
right. Fantastic. Okay. And so if people want to see your work, let's name some films. I mean, we're going to put them in the like show notes and stuff, but tell us some of your favorite films where they can see your work.
Well, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is one of my favorites.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Iron Man 1, all the Night at the Museum films, Tropic Thunder, one of my favorites.
Starsky and Hutch.
Starsky and Hutch, for sure. Wow. There's so many.
I know. Just go to IMDb.
Yeah,
We'll
go
put
to
IMDb in
IMDb,
there.
right? I just did a film doubling an actor named Barry Keoghan. It's called Crime 101. It's coming out sometime. That was a lot of fun too.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, we're now moving into our everybody's favorite segment called DocuView Deja Vu. All right, Greg, I asked you to come prepared with a documentary to recommend for our audience. What you got for us?
I recently saw a documentary called Mountain Queen.
That sounds interesting.
It is awesome.
What is it?
It is about a Nepali woman, the first Nepali woman to climb Everest.
Wow.
And she did it 10 times.
Oh my gosh.
3 kids. And it's an amazing story of her life. She lives in the United States now. She married a guy, moved to the United States, had a really tough time, had a really, really tough life. She has three kids, as I said, and it is the most inspirational story about grit and strength and perseverance that you'll see. Completely inspiring, totally entertaining. The woman is a rock star, but the thing she had to deal with outside of climbing Everest, which you would think is the hardest thing imaginable, she did it 10 times. It's not. Her personal life, the things she had to overcome, it's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. All right, everybody, we will put that in the show notes. Greg, thank you so much for being here. It was really a pleasure for us.
I had a
Great
time.
to get to know you. We look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, you've been listening to Documentary First, where we believe everybody has a story to tell, and you can be the one to tell it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.